Shalom, y'all. Welcome back to Light of the Scroll. Thank you for coming back every week if you do. Thank you for listening if this is your first time. Thank you. Thank you for just listening and just hearing a little bit deeper, a little bit more than just there's more to believing in God or Yahweh than just, okay, let's, that's what we're going to go over today. Because there's a verse that Yeshua, Jesus, says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" That is Matthew chapter 7, verse 21 through 23. That passage should make you pause and think, who is he talking to? And reread that passage, because they've casted out demons in his name. They did mighty works in his name, and he will declare he never knew them. Why? Let's find out. Because the people Yeshua is describing, they're not atheists. They're not people who openly reject Yahweh. They are people who used his name. They called him Lord. They prophesied. They cast out demons. They performed miracles, and they believed they belonged to him. And yet Yeshua looks at them and says something devastating. "I never knew you." Not, you didn't try hard enough, or that you weren't perfect, or that you didn't understand. It's, "I never knew you." That tells us the issue here is not failure, but it's about a relationship. And this is where some believers, I believe, struggle, because we hear the phrase relationship with God, but we don't understand what that actually looks like. God isn't physically sitting in the room with us. He's not next to the couch. We can't grab his hand. He's not there to talk. And he's not, I mean, he is there to talk, but not like your spouse or your partner. He doesn't walk through the door in a visible body the way your spouse does. So how do we understand what a relationship with someone we cannot see looks like? Scripture answers that question by giving us a picture that every adult understands, and that is marriage. From Genesis to Revelation, Yah describes his covenant with his people using marital language. Israel is called his bride. Idolatry is called adultery. Faithfulness is covenant loyalty. The new Jerusalem descends as a bride prepared for her husband. Marriage is not just a poetic illustration, it's an explanation. So think about how a husband and wife relationship actually works. You don't know your spouse because you signed a marriage certificate. You don't know your spouse just because you share a last name. You don't know your spouse just simply because you live under the same roof. You know them because you have a shared life. You learn what brings them joy. You learn what hurts them. You learn what matters to them. And a lot of this stuff is what you should have learned during dating, really. You learn what makes them feel loved. And you also learn what makes them feel ignored. And when you truly love someone, those things begin to shape how you live. You adjust, you grow, you change certain habits. You choose actions that bring them joy rather than actions that hurt them. Not because someone handed you a rule book, but because you love that person. Now, let's bring that into the terms of God. It's not a mystery what brings him joy. It's not buried, because we talked about this in a couple of episodes ago, maybe last episode. Sorry, I don't remember. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And so we just learned on the last episode that the hand of Yah is what wrote all of the commandments, not just the 10. They're just summaries of the rest of everything else, right? That verse, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, John chapter 14, verse 15, it's relationship language. He doesn't say if you fear punishment or if you want heaven badly enough. He says, if you love me. When you love someone, you care about what matters to them. So the question becomes, what has God actually asked of us? Not what did Paul say, not what did my pastor say, not what does his word say? From Genesis to Revelation, what does he say? Not the doctrines, not the traditions. What does God say? And this is where things can become much more simpler if we think about it. He did not leave his expectations vague. Many of them are found in the instructions given in Leviticus and throughout the Torah. Remember, Torah means instructions. So Steve and I follow the instructions of God, which is the first 5 books. Not just Moses, specifically Moses, but I mean, because that's where the deeper instructions are explained. And here's something that is important to understand. Not every command applies to every person in every circumstance. So we've talked about that as well. Some commands only applied if there was a functioning temple, if you were a priest, if you owned land. Were you a king? Are you a king? Are you a man or are you a woman? And some only applied when people were physically going to the temple to slaughter. There is no temple to slaughter. Yeshua was our ultimate sacrifice. Even after Yeshua died on the cross, they were still actually going to temple to slaughter and do their atonement for sins. For example, there's certain purification laws for women that were connected to entering the temple. But today there's no temple, so those commands can't even be carried out. So after having a baby and there's certain times before you're clean as a woman if you had a girl, and then certain days for a boy. Well, if you're not going to the Sabbath or if you're not going to the temple, it doesn't matter. But there are many commands that can be lived today. That's the Sabbath, the appointed feasts, the food laws, justice and kindness towards others, refusing idolatry, living within the design that God created for men and women, honoring the boundaries he established. It's not complicated. It's not possible. It's not impossible. They are simply the ways God told his people how to live in covenant with him. And when you look at them through the lens of relationship, it makes more sense. If someone says they love their spouse, but constantly ignores what their spouse values, then that relationship is a hollow relationship. But if someone says, I love you, so I care about what matters to you, that helps the relationship. It's the same with God. Obedience is not about earning salvation. It's about living in alignment with the one you belong to. And this is why the phrase workers of lawlessness matters so much in Matthew 7. Lawlessness does not simply mean someone who made mistakes. It means someone who rejected the boundaries God established. Because what is, we can go to, give me just a second. We can go to we can go to 1 John chapter 3 verse 4. Everyone who sins breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. Well, what law are we talking about? Because I thought the law was done away with and nailed to the cross. But yet, in 1 John, it's being preached how long after Yeshua was nailed to the cross? How do we know what law? It's because we've already known. You have to think of who were they talking to at the time? More than likely, most of the New Testament, they're talking to people who already believe and who already understand. So therefore, they don't have to go into deep, deep discussion. So sin is lawlessness. So I'm going to read that again. And so the phrase workers of lawlessness matters so much. Lawlessness isn't just somebody who made a mistake. It's not a Western cowboy movie where somebody is outside of the law and the sheriff is chasing them down. It's someone who rejected the boundaries that God established. This person used his name. They exercised spiritual power, but they ignored what he actually asked of him. They wanted the authority of the name without the surrender of the heart. They want the benefits of covenant without the covenant itself. That's not a relationship. That's using God. Now, this often leads people to ask about the thief on the cross because the thief had no time to demonstrate obedience. He had no time to observe the feasts or follow the dietary laws. We don't know what he actually believed. So there was no time to go through sanctification, but Yeshua in Luke chapter 23, verse 43 says, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." So does that mean obedience doesn't matter? Absolutely not. It means the pattern is about direction, not time. In that moment, the thief's heart fully turned. He confessed his guilt and he recognized Yeshua and his innocence. He acknowledged him as king and his life was surrendered. If he had lived longer, obedience would have followed. Not to earn salvation, but because real faith moves toward alignment to walk like Jesus. Justification happened instantly. Glorification followed immediately. Sanctification simply had no time to unfold, but the direction was already set, and that's the difference. The people Yeshua says he never knew were not people who stumbled while walking toward him. They were people who never moved toward him at all. I mean, Satan believes in God. Satan believes in Jesus. Oh, where's that going to get him? Nowhere. These people stopped at the doorway. They wanted the benefits of the kingdom without having the full relationship of the king. They wanted power, but without surrendering. People want salvation, but they don't want to obey. But scripture has always shown the same pattern. God initiates, he orders, and then he completes. Think of Passover, Pentecost, tabernacles. Then you have the outer court, the holy place, the most holy place. And the goal has always been the same. I don't want to be in the outer court. I don't want to be in the holy place. I want to be in the most holy place. I don't want to have just my foot in the door. I mean, if that's all I get, that's all I get. But I'm hoping to strive to be at the table as the bride. The goal has always been the same. In Revelation chapter 21, verse 3, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. It's about dwelling, living in harmony, walking with him. And that relationship naturally produces obedience. Not because obedience saves, but because obedience expresses love. For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. Romans chapter 11, 36. For him, through him, to him. It's not religion. It's not performance. It's a relationship. This is what I never knew you is really about. And that is what the entire story of Scripture has always been pointed towards as well. If you'd like to continue your set-apart journey and like to try out Sabbath for a month with a journal to write down and see how Sabbaths might change your life, or other teaching resources and devotionals, go to Sanctified by Yahweh on Etsy and deepen your study and strengthen your obedience as you grow in sanctification. And if you're a podcast listener, and you're listening to this podcast, you have to listen to it all the way. 50% off site-wide using code podcast. Of course, if you'd like to support the podcast and keep these teachings coming, you can do that by clicking the support link below. So, yeah. Shalom, y'all. Look for the relationship in God and not just a checkbox and not just a milk relationship, but it's time to get into the meat of the relationship of Yahweh. Shalom, y'all.